Looking for a life insurance company that specializes in what you actually need? Protection. Call Danny today with Symmetry Financial. Danny is certified in all 50 states, which means Symmetry Financial is not limited and has over 30 companies to choose from. Symmetry Financial has proved time and time again that their options and pricing is just better than the rest. Give Danny a call today at 828-994-1681 to see how Symmetry Financial can make life simple.
Unforgettables. Nice. This show is sponsored by Unforgettables. Unforgettables creates detailed hand-painted baseballs for every baseball fan. Check them out at unforgettables.com.
And good evening. Welcome to the CRN Sports Podcast Platform. I am Trey Snide along with my fantastic guest for this evening, really co-host of everything that we do at CRN Sports Podcast Platform on the CRN Sports Network and crnsports.org. I am Trey Snide. On the way, a phone line tonight, we have Bruce Barrett. Good evening, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hope you are.
We are doing fantastic. And Daniel Moore, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I hope everybody is.
We're trying. I promise we're trying. And Mr. Brandon White of the Daily Dispatch, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Trey. Hope you are.
I am doing great. Thank you guys for joining me once again right here on the roundtable for CRN Sports Podcast Platform. And really the big headline, and we're going to spend a majority of our time this evening because right now it's the face of not only really America, of the country, but really locally. And so we're going to what I'm referring to is racism in athletics and sports. And so, Brandon, I'm going to start with you, okay? This is something that's close to you in the NASCAR world. Kyle Larson was obviously on the iRacing platform that millions of views, and it's hard for me to say that about NASCAR, you know this, but millions of you and other sports, professional sports, really following the lead of NASCAR with iRacing. Kyle Larson was in a position where he thought his microphone was off, and he said the N-word. Racism in our country has been an ongoing situation and an ongoing affair for many, 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 many years. What is your take on this, and what did you think of the backlash that he received? Do you agree with it? Do you not? We'll go from there.
Well, first of all, I was stunned when I heard that come out of his mouth. I mean, I think Kyle Larson more like squeaky clean type of NASCAR driver that you see these days. But when he uttered that word during the live stream, I mean, I was really taken aback by it, and I knew right away that this was not going to end well for him. And as predicted, he lost his sponsors. He lost his endorsement with Chevrolet. He got indefinitely suspended by NASCAR, and now he has lost his ride with Chip Ganassi Racing. Now, he hasn't lost everything. World of Outlaws, which is like the premier dirt division in the United States, they said that he will be allowed to run races when they do come back as long as he passes sensitivity training. That's the same thing he's got to do in NASCAR, except he doesn't have anything in NASCAR anymore. And my personal opinion, I thought NASCAR responded to this the correct way. That kind of language should not be tolerated at all in this country, let alone sports. Obviously, we all know the very, very dark history with that word in this country. And NASCAR, we know NASCAR also has a checkered history when it comes to racism, and we will talk a little bit about that later in the show. And they're doing what they can to try and distance themselves from some of those mistakes they've made in the past. And now, all of a sudden, Kyle Larson has one of the biggest mistakes of his career, and unfortunately, it casts the sport in a negative light. So, yeah, it was the right decision to indefinitely suspend him.
And I see where you're going with that. And Bruce Barrett, I'm going to go with you, my friend. What is your thoughts about this Kyle Larson situation in NASCAR?
Well, first off, I think NASCAR did the absolute right thing. I'm sorry. You just can't do that. You just can't do that. To get up there and to say something like that, whether, your phone or your microphone's on or off or whatever, really, it's absolutely uncalled for. And I think, NASCAR made a stand there and said, we're not going to tolerate that. And, there's an old saying that he who stands for nothing will fall for anything. And I think NASCAR did the right thing. Larson needs to learn a big lesson about this, because this is something. I mean, he doesn't have a sponsor. He lost his right. He's lost, everything in NASCAR, all because that it's just an insensitive comment to make. It's ridiculous.
It's a tough situation, and we're going to get into a little bit more of that. But Daniel Moore, not only kind of bearing with the pandemic that we have going on, but also tornadoes and pollens here in the Henderson and Oxford area of North Carolina. What is your thoughts on the NASCAR situation with Kyle Larson?
Well, I mean, I hate the word. It's just, like Bruce said, it's an insensitive word, despicable word. I can't stand it. So, I mean, and kind of like everybody else has said, it shouldn't have been said, whether your mic was on or not, So, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where, you don't say it, you kind of just don't have to worry about it type thing. I mean, it's just a really despicable word, and maybe if people really knew some of the history instead of thinking that it's, maybe a joke or the way it's thrown around nowadays, maybe if people really understood the history and respected really how despicable of a word it is and what it meant and means, maybe people would take it a little more serious and just not say it in general. But unfortunately, these are the times that we live in.
And absolutely. And thank you guys again, Trey Snide, Bruce Barrett, Daniel Moore, and Brandon White on the call this evening. Again, thank you for joining us this evening for the roundtable discussion on CRN Sports Podcast Platform and crnsports.org. Again, with this situation, this is the first time that I'm aware of something like this happening in NASCAR. We understand it happens in women's basketball. We understand it happens in soccer. It happens in just radio broadcasts really all the time. And just like what happened, they lose sponsorships. They get fired pretty much. Every single person, every single individual tonight has said, it's just a terrible word. It has never come out of my mouth because it's disrespectful. I have great friends that would never use these words, and it's just and especially the way that it comes out. It just doesn't sound not only professional, but it doesn't sound. It's just not proper, and it's just a bad situation all around. Because if you say it, we understand the long-term jeopardy of something like this. We see you get fired, you lose sponsorships that have been with you for years upon years, it was what he says. It was a mistake. He thought his microphone was off, but again, how it came out of his mouth, it's a situation where it felt like, again, not being in his shoes, not stepping in his shoes, because right now I don't want to be, but stepping in his shoes. The way that it kind of came out of his mouth, it sounds like he said it before. And that's where the situation that I have is, you're so comfortable saying just, with somebody, you can be saying it with your back and forth with your friends. They might not see it that way. But when you're in front of millions upon millions of people, especially now that iRacing is starting to take off for NASCAR and really has built up a good foundation for creating new fans. I'm a fan of it. I've been on the show before talking about how I'm a fan of it, and I'm really not a fan of the racing in general. So it's allowing new fans to come in and enjoy this. But all of a sudden, you work so hard getting this platform kicked off in a positive way, and for all this crazy mess that's going on, it's given our fans, sports fans in general, somewhere to go and enjoy, especially younger generation are so used to like esports and video games. I mean, right before we went on air, I was playing MLB inning 19 on my cell phone. So that's what it is. It's just one of those situations, you work so hard to build up this platform, and it takes 1 second, just immature, childish thing, and it can ruin, generations of a generation of enjoying the NASCAR world.
I feel bad that all the new fans that did get introduced for NASCAR were introduced to Kyle Larson in that way, because I know him as a wheelman who can do stuff on the track that other drivers cannot do. I personally believe he was one of the best things NASCAR had going in these past several years. He was involved in several exciting races, several exciting finishes, including the infamous slide job race between him and Kyle Busch that Busch ended up winning. He's a heck of a driver, and unfortunately, all of that is now tainted by that one mistake he made. And who knows how long it's going to take him to even get remotely close to where he was just 48 hours ago.
Bruce?
Oh. Yeah, hey, the thing that I appreciate on the NASCAR is they were just not going to tolerate that at all, no matter how good a driver he is, no matter, what he does on the track or his sponsors or whatever. NASCAR was not going to tolerate that. And I'm sorry, I just have I'm just going to come right out and say it. I have a very dim view of somebody who looks and judges a man because of their his ethnicity or the color of his skin or whatever. Okay, I'm sorry. You judge people one at a time. Okay? And I think Dr. Martin Luther King said it best. You judge a man by the content of his character, not by the color of his skin. And it's absolutely ridiculous for him to have gone there, to have said that. And I applaud NASCAR, no matter how great a driver he is, no matter how many tickets he may sell. We cannot tolerate that. And I applaud them for their stand.
The crazy thing about all this is, as a generation that we are living in, not only right now, but for years. I'm 32 years old, okay? And generation, before, younger than me, it's so easy to judge somebody right off the bat. You might not like their personality right off the bat, and instantly you don't like them or like that individual. And I think that's a kind of a different kind of spin on this kind of situation that we're in with the NASCAR world, because this is something that it's not just his personality, although it is. Now people are going to look at him, and forever he's going to have this backlash looking down on him for something that maybe was playful in his eyes. Maybe his friends do it, but who cares? But what's going to happen is the new fan base for NASCAR, just like what Brandon just mentioned, was I hate that it's the new generation, new fans are introduced to Kyle Larson in this way, because he has been great for NASCAR. Just last couple of years, he's been, rising as a NASCAR fan favorite. And all of a sudden, just like that, something like this kind of shoots it back, and he has to start from day one, like he's just getting into the racing world.
You want to know what the horrible thing about all this is? Kyle Larson is a Japanese American. He went through the Drive for Diversity program that was designed to bring more minorities into the sport from an auto racing perspective. Darrell Wallace Jr. went through there, to name one driver besides Kyle Larson. Larson knows